Good morning.
Little technical difficulties to start the day.
Um,
All right, so what we have going on here is a live Zoom, and we invite you guys to write in the comments and talk to us if you'd like. And we also have a Facebook Live going on, so we're going to see how this works. It's new. We're just going to try it on and see if we can sort of do both at the same time to meet everybody's needs. And we're going to just be here for maybe 15 minutes or so, and we're going to go through some cool ways of looking at what's going on in the world today. Cool. All right, so this is Alan, for those of you that don't know us, and we have a company called Inspired Outcomes, and we're in Guelph, Ontario, in Canada. And today we're doing this because we have effectively closed down our center. We do have a center here in Guelph where we see clients ourselves, and we have lots of peers and coaches that work in our center and other practitioners. But of course, because of the COVID-19, we've decided that we're going to go online instead. And so part of that is that we decided that we would do this at 11 o'clock every day. We're just going to be here. We're going to talk about this stuff. We have so many tools that we feel like are really, really effective and useful for anyone who's interested in taking control of their mind, of their emotional state. And so we decided we would do this. So we're going to try it out. We're open to any suggestions or different ideas about how we might be able to do this. And most effectively be able to just be a cool place for you guys to come, and we will record them and they'll be available after, of course, as well.
it seems that in this time of COVID-19, I was in the States last week, so when I came home at midnight Saturday night, I became one of the self-quarantining people. See, I'm self-quarantining myself with my wife. But we're in our office. Our office is closed. Most of the practitioners here have been notified by Health Canada that they cannot practice one-on-one. And it seemed to Tara and I that in a time like this, you need community to feel good, to feel safe. And yet the right thing to do is to socially distance ourselves from others to stop the transmission. So, for everybody to feel good in life, the right thing would be to stay with your people, to gather, to see each other. But on the other side of that, hey, good morning, Surinder. On the other side of that, to stop the transmission vectors of the disease, we have to socially distance ourselves. So Tara and I wanted to create a daily community where we can come together and just share some thoughts. We'll share some emotional state management tools every day. We'll end the session with some form of meditation or perhaps light hypnosis or something that just gets us all calm. And for the next 8 weeks or however long it takes, if it's 2 weeks or 8 weeks, we'll create a community that comes together. And we hope that you can share this message with other people, and we'll just take it from there. Tell your story about, let me back up. No, you go tell your story. You tell your story.
Okay, so guys, I just wanted to share, I've gotten a little obsessed. I don't know, I think that there's sort of two camps and then some stuff in between. It's the people that are either avoiding social media, trying to, have as little exposure as they can, or people who are actually getting a little obsessed with it, and I fall in the latter category. So I noticed something really neat that I think is a great way to sort of open this forum that we're creating. And I realized that, like all of you, I'm picking up on the algorithm of my own social media. So I have on my phone, I have news alerts that come from, real news places like BBC and CTV and all that stuff. And I also have Facebook, and I have Instagram and all of the other things. And I started recognizing clearly that there was this, whatever it was that I was most interested in, of course, was what was coming up in my feeds, right? So because I got a little obsessed with a few things, I started getting more and more of that information coming to me. And so what I also realized was that I got upset about a Trump thing the other day. So Trump did something.
As you should, as you should.
And this time I got particularly pissed about it. And so I actually started looking it up. And I started, like, I probably went through about 20 different, I don't know, articles, or just like looking up how this had all happened, how it affected other people and all that stuff. And then I started noticing, as you've likely noticed, that over the next, it was like the algorithm picked up that I was interested in Trump and his, you know, his stuff. And all of a sudden I started getting all of these notices, and the algorithm changed, right? As if I was interested in what he was doing. And I thought to myself, this is so crazy, because what the algorithm can't pick up is how I felt about it, of course, right? So while I don't actually want to see that stuff, I'm not interested in his, you know, daily ongoing stuff. But the algorithm thought, simply because my focus was there, that I wanted that information, and so it started to give it to me. And I thought, this is so fascinating, because those of you who are NLP trained, or maybe just know about this is exactly a mirror of how our communication model works. So we talk about, and Al's going to just talk a little bit now about the communication model, just to give you guys a way to relate it to what's happening. But that algorithm picked up what I was interested in, and it gives me all of the information as if it's scanning for what I'm focused on, in a way where I'm going to get more and more and more and more of the information I'm seeking, and less and less and less of the information that I'm clearly not interested in, right? So you guys are, some of you are nodding there already. Lane knows exactly how this all works, right? And so it was so cool recognizing that even though it was disdain that I had for the Trump thing, the algorithm didn't care. Just as our mind doesn't care if it's positive or negative, whatever you focus on is exactly what you're going to get more of. So I just thought it was a neat metaphor to lead into the conversations we're going to have. So we are trying right now to, there we go. Do you guys all see that?
Can you guys all see the NLP communication model on your screen? Yeah, hopefully you can. I see some thumbs up. So the metaphor Tara just shared about the algorithms running inside Facebook, they also run inside Google. If you have Google running, Google Home running, if you have Alexa running, anytime it picks up what you're interested in, it filters out the rest of the world and gives you the things you're interested in. And that reminded us of the NLP communication model. Of course, you know, the NLP communication model says that we have external events. All right. Yeah. So the NLP communication model says that we have an external event, of course, and that we receive information about that event through our five senses, our visual, our auditory, our kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. But this is coming in at a massive rate. And just like Facebook has billions of bits per second happening, YouTube does as well, Google does, we have filters, and our three primary filters are: we generalize things, we distort things, and we delete things. And that is just like the algorithms running inside of Facebook. So our own personal filters, our own personal algorithms shift in our emotional moment. So when I'm in my happy moment, the 134 bits per second of information that I'm allowing into my internal brain are based on my happy filters. If I'm in a nasty mood, then my filters that I allow information in, the generalization, distort, and delete, are influenced by my negative mood. And just like when Tara went surfing for Donald Trump articles, heaven forbid, why she would do that, she started getting more and more messaging about Donald Trump. And so it's really interesting to watch people. As I traveled home from Orlando on the weekend, I was watching people being mesmerized by their smartphones or their iPads and just diving in. And they were doing this as they just scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. And even on the airplane, before we had to shut down our devices, and now most airlines have Wi-Fi, people continued to just scroll and scroll through. And the part here is that of the billions of bits of information they could have let in, the 134 bits per second they were letting in was specifically about COVID-19. And I think when you let that in, it's not all scientific or reassuring. There's a lot of other modalities around, and as we get more and more and more in about COVID-19, of course, our internal representation connects to our physiology. So if we're scrolling through when we're in bed, or if we're scrolling through in this body position when we're in negative physiology, the chances are when internal representation connects to physiology, it's going to create a negative state. And now, one last point. Now that when you combine that with social distancing and imposed behavior, now we have a negative emotional state combined with a negative societal behavior, one that doesn't really fit most of us. And the chances of getting drawn in deeper and deeper are there. So we'd like to talk to how we might change that.
Mm-hmm. So the underlying point here is that what you're focused on, and this is not to say that you want to avoid getting information that you need to get. I have no problem looking up the information to make sure that I'm doing what I can. Also, just simply because it's fascinating, right? I mean, it's truly fascinating to be in this moment, and I think our curiosity, as much as anything else, about what's going to happen and how it's possible this is happening. What you want to be careful of, and what you want to make sure that you recognize that you really have control of, is your own focus over the filter that you see it through. So if I'm reading this and I leave myself at the mercy of whatever comes in, it may be that I start to inadvertently feel a lot of fear, or a lot of, I've seen a lot of posting out there about people's disdain of others, right? The people that are upset with the way that other people are reacting. But if you can take control of that, so if you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to get this information, and I know that when I go online and I look at all this information, I'm going to see numbers of deaths, of severe cases, I'm going to see people struggling and all that kind of stuff. If you say to yourself, I'm going to go for that information, but I'm going to make sure that my focus stays on how I can learn from this, or how I can grow from this, or what is it that I can take and share with other people, or set yourself up. I would challenge you to sort of decide on a filter to use yourself, a focus really, to bring this information from, bring in through that filter, and see how it changes your response to what you're reading. I even think that there's a lot of value in, if you see something, not a big long article, but something short, read it through one filter. Like, decide specifically, if I was reading this article or this piece from a place where I feel totally safe, absolutely grounded, certain and optimistic, and then read it again as if you were reading through the filter of someone who was terrified, someone who, didn't feel as though they had control. And notice yourself. It's such a good exercise of recognizing how much control you really do have over the information that's coming in, even though the information itself stays the same.
Yeah, and it's like the exercise. Those of you who have trained with us, or you may have experienced this exercise somewhere else, where we do the handshake exercise, where you pair up with somebody, and in your mind, I guide it, and I tell you, you're about to meet somebody who you do not like. You would not normally take the time to introduce yourself to this person. They're not the kind of person you would ever want to be with. And then we say, on the count of 3, stick out your hand and introduce that person. And the tone in the room is absolutely quiet. And we watch the people. Nobody wants to connect with the other person. And then we do a quick break state. And then we said, okay, now let's play the same game. Only this time, this person that you're about to introduce yourself to is special. They're in your bucket list. If you could travel somewhere, you would travel miles to meet this person. You would take the time, you would pay money to meet this person. This person is the kind of person you want to know. I count to 3, you introduce yourself, and the sound and the energy in the room goes way up. And, Tara and I joke that sometimes we have to actually separate people because they've now found their new best friend. And we ask the question, how is that possible? That 2 minutes ago, you did not want to meet this person, and now the energy is electric, people are excited, and it's the same room, the same people, just a different story we've told ourselves in our mind, right? So this is part of the distortion function, same data, you're in the same room, you're getting the same data, but you put up a new filter, a happy filter, and you're distorting what's happening. So Tara's idea of reading the article from two different perspectives will give you a really, really different view.
So we're going to do a little exercise with those of you that are still here, and if you're watching this later as a recorded video, because we want to show you that when you focus on what you want, so those of you who have worked with us, or if you have done any other training in this realm, you will likely see something on our walls that says focus drives your behavior and your behavior creates your results. So if you have an intention, so if there's some way that you would like to feel about this, if you take a moment to pause and just ask yourself, if I could experience this situation. So some of you may be more concerned with your health, the health of other people around you. Some of you may be worried right now because of your career or your job or your income, right? Some people are nervous about their own mental health, right? Being isolated and alone is sometimes really difficult if you're already dealing with mental health issues, with anxiety or anything else. So whatever your particular concern is, what may be on your mind most, imagine how you'd like to respond to it in your most resourceful state. So just take a moment and think, if I was watching the movie of myself, and I wanted to get to the end and I wanted to look back and say, I kicked ass during that thing. Like, regardless of what was going on, regardless of how this thing works out, I am so damn proud of how I was able to keep myself in the strongest, most resourceful state I could. And just imagine what that would look like. It's going to be different for everyone. And so imagine what that is for you. And we're going to ask you to do something right now. I'm just going to guide you through a really quick little exercise. We call this the anxiety model, or Al has renamed it the
positive outcome model.
Okay.
I hate installing anxiety, so I like to do the positive outcome model.
Okay, so here we go. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Everyone who's watching can just close their eyes. And imagine when this has subsided, when things have improved to the point where our communities and our countries are okay again. When all of the schools are open again, when the stores are open, when you're back at work, when things have gotten back to a place where society is functioning normally. And I want you to imagine yourself, there's probably going to be an announcement by our government stating that things are okay. I'd like you to go 15 minutes after the successful completion of you in that moment, having dealt with this whole situation in the most kick-ass way. And you're now 15 minutes after it's over. Things are back to normal. And drop down into your body right now and feel how good you're going to feel. And notice how good that's going to feel when you have gone to bed every night knowing you've done the best you could possibly do, given the situation. You've been creative. And now float up out of your body again. Look down at yourself in that moment, 15 minutes after the successful completion of getting through this whole thing in the most resourceful possible way. Turn and look back to this moment right now. Just notice how that feels now. You may notice specific new sense of resourcefulness within yourself. Calm, creative, excitement even. Capability, strength. And allow yourself to float all the way back to now. And just come back into the room and open your eyes and reorient to here and now. Cool.
We'd like to close now. And of course, most of you know that the symbol for crisis in the Chinese caricatures is also the symbol for opportunity. And so many of us, when we're running our business, don't have time, as Stephen Covey would say, to do quadrant 4, the non-urgent important work, the future visioning, the planning. There's never enough time. We're always on the go, we're on the go, right? And so while this is a crisis for those of us who work face-to-face with people, to some degree, we have to go into a virtual world. there's an opportunity right there to transition our business into a more virtual. I know, Elaine, you have a good virtual business going. For some of us, it's an opportunity to do the urgent, not urgent, very important work of future planning. For some of us, there's online courses we haven't had time to get to build. And for some of us, there are, you know, family members we haven't had a time to write letters to or communicate.
For some of us, we can turn the video on and go into all the cages at the San Diego Zoo.
This Friday, we're hosting our 9-year-old. He'll be 10's birthday party virtually with family members. So we're having a virtual, I don't know how the birthday cake will taste over the internet, but we'll give her a whirl. Anyways, that's pretty close to 30 minutes. So we wish you all well. Tomorrow we'll do another emotional state management tool with another close. And I hope you all join us tomorrow at 11 or when you can. Have a really, really safe day. Stay well. Keep your families well. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, guys.